What's up, spectators? Welcome back to an episode of Chaos Child. Last time we went into a love hotel where we saw several dead bodies, one not so dead, and then... yeah, I guess the chapter ended. I don't know if we ended up escaping through the hotel window or not. midnight.
新庄さん、所持品と防犯カメラの映像から親族に裏取れました。死亡したのは柿田博則22歳。渋谷在住のフリーターで更新でマーケティングのアルバイトをしていたようです。
更新でバイト？恋人は？
いません。同居人もなし。一人暮らしだったようです。
くそ。
Shinjo cursed. If he was single and not in a relationship, it would take time to figure out his private life. And Koshin was one of the companies that had profited the most from the recovery projects in recent years. Part-timer or not, if he worked there, he was probably pretty busy. It was possible that his coworkers knew just his name and nothing else about who he was outside of work.
新庄さん、マスコミへの対応どうしますか？海洋見テレビやニコニアのネット記者が引き下がらなくて。
それから現場にいた例の子たちですが、壁報の新聞部と言っていた2人、状態は落ち着いたみたいなんですが、やはりところどころ要領を得ません。もう一人の女の子も身元を示すものを何も持っていなく、柿田の交友関係、親戚筋から洗っていますが、まだ当たりません。こっちは完全黙秘です。
あと、先ほど検視の方から問い合わせが。
待て、勝手に。
ニコニアニュースの渡部です。すいません。一体何が起こって。
出て行け。許可なく入るな。
一言お願いします。
Shinjo's men physically dragged the reporter out of the room. He had to stop himself from putting his hands to his head and moaning. He couldn't let his men see him acting weak. Shinjo had been with Police Headquarters Section 1 for less than 7 years. He didn't get along with his superiors, but he'd managed to beg his way into being in charge of this case. Maybe this was his way of avenging the death of an older detective who he'd admired.
窓枠の鑑識が終わったらすぐに外から見えないようにしといてくれ。あのネット記者は最近何するかわからん。
はい。
検視は俺が直接対応する。それから会社の仕事周りへの人数を増やしてくれ。上には後で俺から言っておく。
はい。それで例の子たちは？
それも俺が持つ。じゃ、よろしく頼む。
はい。
Kill them. His men raced out of the room. They never had a case like this before, and they were probably pretty excited. So was Shinjo, to be honest. The whole thing was such a mess that he didn't even know where to begin, but his detective's instincts were screaming at him to start doing the work needed to find the killer.
よし。
はい、信用調査会社フリージアでございます。
His call was answered on the first ring like always.
俺です。
あら、新庄ちゃん、遅かったわね。もうちょっと早く連絡が来ると思ってたけど。
すいません。
Shinjo apologized without thinking, and for no clear reason. He always felt like a naughty child when he spoke to his CEO, who happened to be a woman.
現場の面倒をちゃんと見てるから苦労すんのよ。少しはあの人みたいにチャランポランで行きなさいな。
先輩の性格まで見習うつもりはありませんよ。
真面目だわね。いつまでも真面目が美徳だと思ってると痛い目見るわよ。
百瀬さん、そんなことより相談したいことがあるんです。
Shinjo cut her off before she could continue her lecture and gave her a brief description of the scene. This was a violation of the rules, but the only way to solve a crazy case was to be a little crazy yourself. That was the first thing he'd learned from that older detective.
それって殺人なの？自殺なの？
Momose asked her question after he described the situation. She'd cut to the heart of the problem.
現状ではそれがわからないんです。
The hotel had gotten suspicious when Kakita had never come down after checkout time. When more than 10 calls to the room went unanswered, they'd contacted the police. They didn't even check the room? 2 officers as well as someone from the hotel had gone to the room and found the body and an unconscious girl. 1 officer stayed at the scene to keep it secure, and the other searched the hotel to make sure it was safe. During the search, he'd forgotten to lock the employee entrance in the back near the stairs. That was how the 2 students from Hekiho had gotten in. Shortly after he'd left the room, the girl woke up and started strangling the officer who stayed. He'd hit his head on the edge of the glass window and knocked himself out. Hold on, wait a minute. He was going to be fine, but he'd been out cold until backup arrived. When the backup got there, they found the girl unconscious on the floor. A boy from Hekiho was passed out on the floor too. The other girl from Hekiho was throwing up, also on the floor. Kakita's cause of death was asphyxia via strangulation. The wire around his neck was a kind used at construction sites. It had been hung in an X pattern from the lights on the ceiling. And he'd been sitting on the bed as it rotated. That's why there was so much pressure on his neck that finally his head had been severed. From the estimated time of death, Kakita had passed away before the police had even been contacted. The body on the bed kept spinning in time to the music, 1 rotation every 2 minutes. In the end, the man's head had been cut off completely. The problem was the girl in the room. There was no indication that she'd ever touched Kakita. There was no fingerprints or any other signs that she touched Kakita's body, the bed, or the wire. The only things they found under her fingernails were skin and blood from the officer she'd strangled. In fact, there was no indication she touched much of anything in the room. Everything they found belonged to Kakita. And according to the officer she'd strangled, when she attacked, she'd clearly been in an unstable psychological state. Her eyes were bloodshot and out of focus.
つまり何？その女の子は柿田って男が死ぬのを黙って見ていて、部屋の中のものにほとんど触れず、混濁した意識のまま警官に襲いかかって首を絞めたと。
Shinjo scratched his head as he heard her sum up the situation. That was what it looked like, at least from what they knew. And just going by that, it sure looked like a suicide. But it was all far too strange.
なるほど。厄介だわね。現場に入り込んだっていう壁砲の子たちは？
ショックが大きかったようで、最初は何も喋らなかったんですが、今は少しずつ話し始めています。ですが、いろいろと問題のある壁砲の子ですから。
He checked with the school and verified that they were part of the school's newspaper club. The security camera at the rear entrance had seen them coming in, which matched with their testimony. But he didn't know what to make of their testimony that the door had opened on its own, or that someone else had tried to come into the room. The door was equipped with an automatic lock, and the only person inside the room who could have opened it was the girl. But there was no sign of her fingerprints on the door. And the security camera in the hallway showed no signs of anyone else trying to go in. In any event, it was extremely rare for a civilian to see a dead body outside of a funeral. And in an unstable mental state, it was extremely easy to imagine things or just outright be mistaken about what was going on. If they turned out to not have any relationship to Kakita or the girl, he planned on letting them off with a stern warning.
結局のところ、一番大きな手がかりは部屋に潜んでいたその子なんですが、何も喋りません。
そのままだと非感知よね。
はい。そうなると大幅に捜査が遅れることになるので、そうしたくないんです。
わかったわ。ちょっと情報を回させてちょうだい。多分新庄ちゃんの立場的に無理してもらうことになるから。 覚悟はしといてね。3分後にこっちからかけ直すから。
あ、助かります。よろしくお願いします。
Shinjo went to hang up the phone.
ちょっと。
はい。
そういえばお願いがあるのよ。絶対に新庄ちゃんのためにもなることなんだけど、聞いてくれないかしら。
So it was basically an order then, Shinjo thought to himself.
何ですか？
この件に関して私より詳しいうちの子が一人いるのよ。それで今回の現場を直接見たいって言ってるんだけど、お願いできない？
部外者を現場に？
いつだって物事を解決するヒントを与えるのは部外者よ。
After all, I'm an outsider too, she continued. In his head, Shinjo went over the steps he'd have to take and the time required to take them.
明日、いや、明後日で構いませんか？
さすが新庄ちゃん、話せるじゃない？よくそれで堅物揃いの捜査一課に残れてるわね。
では、よろしくお願いします。
ちょっと新庄ちゃん。
He barely stopped himself from ending the call.
まだ何か？念のためアドバイスをしとこうと思って2つね。言っておくけど、さっきのは冗談じゃないのよ。
は？
チャランポランで行きなさいっていうやつよ。これから間違いなく新庄ちゃんの理解の外にある事件は続くわよ。その時一番邪魔になるのは常識だから気をつけなさいな。
肝に銘じます。
そこで真面目に返事しているようではまだまだね。もう一つはね。
Momose paused for a second and chuckled.
うちの子に取って食われないようにね。油断してると新庄ちゃんが部外者になりかねないわよ。
なあ、ツイポ見た？
ああ、壁砲ボットのネタ画像でしょ。でっかいウーパがドヤ顔して光るように座って渋谷も変わったとか言ってる。
What is she talking about? What are they trying to say to me? Okay. HekihoBot, fictional, a Twitter account. I'm gonna say Twitter. A Twitter account followed by over 80% of Hekiho students. It includes funny memes, discounts about cafes, blah 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 blah. Okay. Upa, a ball-shaped mascot character from the popular manga Rainet Kakeru. Okay.
そうめっちゃ切なそうなの。あれさ、文化祭で使うね。渋谷復興の歴史の展示なんてどうせ誰も見ねえじゃん。
画像だけじゃ弱くない？なんかぬいぐるみとか実際に置かないと。
The male student started to search through Shibuya's stores with his smartphone. He must have found something strange because he kept mumbling, "No way." Ito was recording the newspaper club's project for the festival, a bunch of random footage of the preparations at the cafeteria.
そんなもんで盛り上がってる場合かってな。
A body had just been found in Dogenzaka yesterday, and all these students cared about what was their stupid jokes. The body was found less than 10 minutes away from the school, but they barely even mentioned it.
ま、確かにまだ大掛かりには報道されてないけどさ。
The first reports had been on a major communication company's website. That was where Ito had seen it. It had been last night. It had made the morning news in the morning papers, but all that had been reported was that a body had been found and that no details were known. And it was rare for a high school kid to check the TV news and papers every day. There was no word from Miyashiro. Ito was really worried about what had happened at the Love Hotel, but he had no way of asking about it.
くそ。
He took out his phone, even though he knew he hadn't gotten any calls. Sure enough, there were no messages. He'd been doing that a lot since yesterday. He couldn't bring himself to make a call. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say to a friend who had been taken away by the police. What an awful laugh. The laughing students irritated Ito in a way that he didn't really understand. He'd been planning on videotaping the entire cafeteria today, but instead he gave up and left.
撮影お疲れ様。
He went inside the club room and saw Kurusu was there.
連絡は
Kurusu's expression clouded for a moment as she shook her head.
あれからは何も。
そっか。
Wakui, the club advisor, had told him that Kurusu had taken a change of clothes for Miyashiro to the police station last night. She'd been told that neither Miyashiro nor Onoe were hurt. The police were probably going to let them off with a warning, and if they weren't suffering any after effects from the trauma, they'd be let go in the morning. But school was over, it was almost evening, and there was no word from either of them. Ito dropped into his chair.
たく、学校のみんなは平和なもんだよ。昨日のことなんてほとんど誰も話してないんだぞ。
そう。
そりゃあ東京じゃ発表されてるだけでほぼ1週間に2人のペースで誰かが殺されてるんだから、変死体があったってだけじゃ別に真新しくもないけどさ。にしたってな、道玄坂なんてもろ近所じゃん。下手したらそこを通って登校してるやつもいるかもしれないってのに。つかいるだろ、うちなら。あれかな、あいつがいつも言ってるみたいに社会に関するニュースを載せてるサイトとかにアクセスしないやつばっかりなのかな。
わかりやすいね。
Kurusu chuckled.
は？
心配なんでしょ、二人のこと。
Ito started to speak, but then choked it back.
別に副部長こそ心配なんじゃないの？
Ridiculous, she chuckled.
怒ってる。処置なしだもの。セリカはともかくとしてね。忠告も聞かずに突っ込んで無茶するからこんなことになる。伊藤君にも新聞部の文化祭の映像押し付けることになるし。
いや別にそれは大したことないからいいんだけどさ。
ダメ。与えられた役割はきっちりこなすのが当たり前でしょ。
ここか。クルス、予算の件どうなってる？
Kawahara appeared. He was very out of breath.
予算？
超過した予算をまとめたやつ。経理がまだかって。
Kurusu frowned as she realized her mistake.
ごめん。すぐにメールでまとめて送るから。
なるはやで担当の教師が帰っちゃう前に。
Kawahara ran off before Kurusu had time to answer. And before he was even out of sight, Kurusu had booted up the PC and started to tap at the keys.
何？
いや別に。
Which of us is more obvious? That's what Ito was about to say before he stopped himself. Normally, it was impossible to imagine Kurusu not doing her job. For a while after that, Kurusu focused intently on her work. Ito didn't have much else to do, so he watched her. When he looked carefully, he could see small dark spots under her eyes. She probably hadn't slept. And then Ito realized for the first time, Kurusu had probably come to the club room to see if either of them had contacted him. With all the preparations that were going on, there was no other reason for her to be here.
なんとまあ、あの女帝がね。
Kurusu pressed down hard on one final key as she finished her task. Then, suddenly, an unpleasant sound filled the room.
なあ、
わかってる。
They looked over and saw that Kazuki was nibbling on dried squid as she played her game, oblivious to everything around her. Ito had seen her come in after Kurusu had started her work. He thought she might say hello, but knowing her, maybe not. He'd also seen her start to play her game. He'd been trying not to bring it up, but that was clearly impossible now. She must have been concentrating pretty hard. Her gaze was constant and steady. Ito sighed.
こいつはいつでもマイペースだな。他人に興味がないのかね。
そんなわけないでしょ。この子は他の人よりほんの少しだけ自分が強いの。
にしたってよ。
She's in the same club as them, he started to say, but Kurusu stopped him with a raised hand. She looked down at Kazuki's game screen.
そうでもなかったみたい。
Kurusu chuckled and took off Kazuki's headphones.
カズキ、私はゲームやらないから詳しいことはわからないけど。この家の壁に向かって延々と火の玉出してるのは何か意味があるの？すごい勢いで燃え広がってる。
Kazuki looked back at the screen with a stunned expression on her face. She yanked the headphones out of Kurusu's hands and quickly put them on, then started to pound at the keyboard.
落ち着きなさい。というかその煩わしいスルメ、飲み込むか出すかしなさい。行儀悪い。
Kazuki may or may not have heard her because she struggled with her game for a while, and then... She froze like a toy whose batteries had run out. The squid she'd been chewing fell out of her mouth and landed on the desk. Ew. She stared at it for almost 30 seconds, as if something impossible had happened. Then she silently stood up and staggered over to the shelf where he kept the electric coffee maker. Her face had turned pale.
カズキ、大丈夫か？コーヒー入れてくれるのか？
Kazuki nodded in answer to Ito's second question and started to make coffee with shaking hands. She made Kurusu her usual with 2 cubes of sugar and gave Ito a coffee mixed with milk. Then she made a cup for herself, black, but didn't drink a drop. Her forehead slammed into the desk with a thud, and she became so quiet it was impossible to tell if she was breathing.
ね？
Kurusu looked to Ito for agreement as she cleaned up Kazuki's squid.
いや、そうか？
He took a sip from his coffee, not sure what to think. To him, none of this made any sense. Kurusu didn't say another word as she drank her coffee. Ito looked up at the blank ceiling and decided that this was as good a time as any to ask. It wasn't that it was wrong, but it still felt kind of awkward.
あのさ、
何？
あいつがこんなに事件に入れ込んでるのって何か理由があんの？
Kurusu froze. She lowered her gaze as if searching for answers in her coffee cup.
伊藤くんこそずいぶん事件に対して熱心じゃない？
She seemed to... hold on. Every time I think they're gonna say a little bit more, I take a sip, and then they end up reading, so I gotta pause. She seemed to be trying to change the subject.
俺はこういうのが好きな人だから。
こういうの？
猟奇的な事件。でも昨日みたいに現場に忍び込むっていうのは。
That was going too far, he continued. Kurusu silently took another sip of her coffee. She seemed to be staring at a single point in the distance, lost in thought. It was clear that while she was seeing the things around her, none of them held any meaning. Looking at her scared Ito a little... What? Okay. Was it really that big a deal?
別に 言いたくなければ。
そういうわけじゃない。きっと基本的には伊藤君と同じ。タクルも好きだもの、こういうの。それに危なっかしいところに首を突っ込みたがるのも昔からだし。
I see, Ito said.
小学校からだっけ？あいつが副部長と一緒に暮らすようになったの。
ええ。正確には被災して少し経ってからだから、中学生に上がるか上がらないかの時だけど。
Kurusu and Miyashiro were both what people called earthquake orphans. They'd both been in 6th grade when they lost their parents to the earthquake. Since they had no relatives to take them in, they'd been sent to the same group home, the Localized Small-Scale Children's Welfare Facilities. What a awful name. Aoba Dormitory. Kids like them weren't common in Shibuya these days, but they weren't exactly rare either. Miyashiro had been so badly injured during the earthquake that he'd been put into a coma. He was still in that coma when he arrived at the dorms. The head of the dorm was also the head doctor at the Ioba clinic downstairs, and so for a while, that was where he was kept. Kurusu had taken care of literally all his needs. There were 4 kids at the facility. Kurusu and Miyashiro were the oldest. Since her birthday was earlier than his, she dubbed herself the oldest of 4 siblings and volunteered to take care of the other 3. Even back then, Miyashiro had a habit of being curious and getting into trouble.
だいたい天の弱だしね。みんなとは違うってよく言ってるでしょ。そんなことはないのに。
She spoke like a parent worried for her child's future.
でも結局あの子は。
お疲れ様。おや、クルス君も来てたのか。
先生、連絡があったんですか？
The club advisor, Wakui Waluigi, was quite relaxed as he came into the room. Kurusu quickly stood up and rushed over to him. He nodded and motioned for her to calm down.
ついさっきね。
Oh man, this guy grows a beard out like I would. Can't let it get that far, man. Is everything okay?
それはもちろん。ほら、伊藤君、すぐに体育館に行きなさい。
体育館？なんで？
軽音部が今からリハーサルをするって。いい文化祭の記録になるんじゃないかな。
Kurusu's expression froze, and suddenly it changed.
涌井先生？連絡ってそれですか？
そうだよ。ってなんだいクルス君、機嫌がいいね。
あら、先生には機嫌がいいように見えますか？
行ってくる。先生も行こ
う。ちょっと。
Sensing a gathering storm of violence, Ito pushed Wakui out the door. Kazuki had looked up, but now she slammed her head back on the desk. Now that she was all alone, Kurusu took out her phone and checked it. There was no message, of course. She sighed and looked at the board. That incident yesterday at the Love Hotel. Whether it was murder or suicide, from the way Miyashiro and Onoe had looked when they'd been taken by the police, something had happened. Miyashiro had said it had something to do with the incident 6 years ago. Now that it had happened 3 times, there was no ignoring it. No, it was too dangerous. She couldn't let him get more involved in this. She thought back to Ito's question about why Miyashiro was so interested in the case. Kazuki was still lying with her head on the desk. When she turned her head to the side, for some reason, she looked like she was enjoying herself. When Kurusu saw that, she suddenly lost her desire to drink the coffee. Apologizing in her mind to Kazuki, she decided to pour it out at the water fountain. She headed to the upstairs water fountain, which was usually less crowded. She found herself looking down at the gaps between the tiles, as the sound of her footsteps rang in her ears. Normally I would probably do about 10 more minutes, but today I'm going to cut this video short, and we'll end it here at the 30-minute mark. So, stay tuned next time for the next episode, and hopefully we'll get to see what happens to the main character. So, stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye!